Profound Professionals, and we are now doing these live. I found a process where with my standard Zoom connection and subscription that I pay monthly for very inexpensively, I am able to also link into live for both Facebook and YouTube. I do a Profound Professional interview series. I feature amazing industry leaders who are top of their game in their industry and also touching the community or the world in a greater way. And today I have the pleasure of being here with Jeff. Jeff is the founder and CEO of Maryland Apex Hypnosis. He's also the director at the Royal Mines Rehabilitation Center, and he's doing some amazing things. I'm so glad you're here with me today, Jeff.
And I'm happy to be here today talking to you, Jessica.
This is some interesting stuff, guys. I love the psychology of the sale, learning how to move people to action, understanding people's buying language, and just all these different interesting components. And Jeff touches a part of that whole process that doesn't just help with sales, it helps with so many other things. And so I'm interested for us to learn more about that. So can you tell us first a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then kind of we'll give them the teaser of what we're really going to talk about today?
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of you may hear New York, New Jersey accent while I'm talking, and it's because I'm from Jersey City. I'm the oldest of 4 boys, and I came up in the '90s era, where it's so amazing where the world has come and just the growth I've seen in myself and everybody around me. For instance, I remember purchasing my first house a couple of years ago and telling my partner, hey, we need bars on the window, and her going, what do you mean you need bars on the window? And I was so used to growing up having like the bars on the window so nobody would break in, realizing like that was a conditioning because I was from a bad neighborhood. That's not normal when you move to the suburbs. So things like that, you know, as you become an adult, what you think is normal is like, no, that isn't normal at all.
That is hysterical. So so you guys moved to the suburbs, what area?
The White Marsh area.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And so you were one of 4 boys, and you, I guess, so did you stay in that, or did you meet your wife there? Did you go to school there and then you moved over here together? Or we went from where you were born to how you got here?
Not my wife just yet, not my wife. we haven't gotten married just yet. But I met her when I moved to Baltimore. I have a brother that's a cop here, so I said I always wanted to move away from Jersey because the parking is horrible. Jessica, I'm only here for the parking.
That's right. You moved here for the parking.
It's so much parking here.
It makes sense to me.
Yes. So yeah, the parking was horrendous. I would have to move my car 2 times during the day. I had a budget for parking tickets. It was insane. But I did undergraduate there. I went to graduate school in Rutgers, and it was just something. It was very like I'm very lucky because at each step of the way, like I'm just thinking bigger and good, going, I'm not sure if I could do this, and then you accomplish that goal, and then you set another one, then you keep accomplishing it, and then by the time you turn around and you look, you go, wow, I've done a bunch of things I've never dreamed of doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I honestly thought at one point in my life, making $30,000 a year, that would be the greatest thing ever. It would be making more than my mother, who was supporting 4 boys on that, who was making about 24, 26. I said, I just want to make a little bit more than her. So
Well,
it's just,
you know, steps, goals, and increments, right? And I think that that's outstanding that you did that. You took it one at a time. And we'll say hi to Lori and hi to Raj because they're watching. So you really, I mean, you pulled yourself out and you got yourself an education. You relocated to Baltimore, and now how did you get into what you're into now? I think you froze. Come on back to us, Jeff.
yeah.
There you are. Okay, good.
No, so this is incredible. This is how I got into what I got into. I love helping people. Like that's one of my passions. I've encountered so many people that have been hurt, that have made wrong decisions. So one of my biggest missions in life is to reduce pain and suffering. So when I moved to Baltimore, I noticed that the trauma was insane. Like I'm used to regular trauma, but the
Yeah.
trauma in Baltimore, like I literally had a client that was in a wheelchair, gunshot wound, and while I was working with him, he was shot in the head. I go, wow, this place is
Oh
surreal.
my gosh. That's
Yeah,
awful.
like the trauma, like the clients, like I've worked in violent areas in Jersey, Newark, East Orange. They're very problematic, but nothing compares to Baltimore. Nothing. So I started to feel a lot of empathy and hurt for these people, because I went, what can I get? What can I do to them? So I started to research what was the most effective way of dealing with trauma, and I realized that it was hypnosis. So then I tested it out on myself. I did something where I hypnotized my hand to the point where it couldn't lift up, and when it worked, I was like, whoa. So then I called a friend of mine that's extremely skeptical. She calls BS on everything. She's highly analytical. She's like, no way, that doesn't work. I don't care. She had a trip to Jamaica coming up. So I said, okay, I'm gonna try it on her. If I try it on her and if it works, this stuff works. So I hypnotize her, and she goes to the on and she goes on the trip, and she tells me that she did not have any fear, that all she thought about was her son, that it was the most enjoyable plane ride for her life. And after that, I said this stuff works. So I started to use it with my clients, and I started to get amazing results with trauma and anxiety, like out of the world results. Mind you, I've been in this field for about 10 years. So to get the results I was getting in a short amount of time without
Yeah.
medication was amazing.
That is amazing. So give us some idea of some different ways hypnosis can be used, because one of the reasons, I mean, I'll be honest, from the reason I ever started researching NLP and hypnosis and even self-hypnosis was to help myself, reach my own goals, but also there's hypnotic phrases and um, things you can implement from a sales perspective. Not that I'm going to use my Jedi powers for evil or anything. I always make sure the deal is good for them and good for me. But there is definitely ways where you can incorporate this kind of knowledge and information into your sales process when you're communicating. That's what fascinated me and started to get me into it. But there's so many other applications. So talk to us about a couple of the different ways hypnosis is used in the world that maybe we don't realize.
Sure. And one of the ways it's used, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, is you're dehypnotizing people.
Mm.
So like whenever somebody tells me, well, I've never been hypnotized, I go, we're all in trances. We come in and out of trances our whole life.
Hmm.
So
Well,
one of
I
the
know the
trance,
driving one is a real thing because I have woken up like woken up in another lane or gone the wrong way because I was in this trend of thought, this like almost trance of going through my mind what I needed to do.
no, yeah, exactly. And that's one, but you may even go into the trance that you're in the sales slump. You may go into the trance that you're bad at
Mm.
sales. You may go into the trance that nobody likes you. Like there's all these
Oh, you
different
mean the
trances.
subconscious thing that's happening where we're hypnotizing ourselves without realizing it and for things that we don't necessarily want. Because I know there's hypnotherapy to work with you to help you around all kinds of issues, whether it's weight or how you feel about things. So if you're like, you collect too much stuff, a little bit too much clutter going on. I'm not talking about anyone personally. But different stuff like that. But yeah, so that's interesting. So talk to us more about that.
Sure. So people often walking around with this conscious, right? I call it a negative coach. And it's been there since you were a little kid. And this coach is giving you suggestions, and you're responding to the suggestions as if it's really you talking to yourself, and it's not. So whenever you hear that critical voice, that's you hypnotizing yourself to believe somebody that isn't on your side, that isn't your best friend. And the more people continue to respond to that voice as if it's actually a helpful voice, the more they'll find themselves in pain and suffering again.
And so how do they break that cycle? I mean, I know working with someone like you is hugely beneficial, but what are some things they can do to help break that cycle?
One of the things they could do to help break that cycle is just realize that that isn't them. This is just a constructed portion of their personality that is there to keep them safe, but it's sabotaging them. Understand that it is not you, that's the first step. The next step is trying to filter out and identify everything they're saying, because it's gonna have a train of thoughts to it, and it's gonna be negative. The next thing is possibly naming it or giving it a personality. Because once you distinguish and make a difference between it being you and it being something else, it's a lot easier to overcome. But it's sabotaging them. Understand that it is not you, that's the first step. The next step is trying to filter out and identify everything they're saying, because it's gonna have a train of thoughts to it, and it's gonna be negative. The next thing is possibly naming it or giving it a personality. Because once you distinguish and make a difference between it being you and it being something else. I still hear my voice, Jessica.
Yeah, I think that we got sucked into the replay of what you were talking about before. So the modern technology of the world. So you started talking about the steps. So identify the voice and understand that it's not you, and then start really recognizing what they're saying so that you can kind of break away and walk away from those negative statements and acknowledge them as not true. And then where do you go from there?
And where you go from there is you label it. You give it a personality or you give it a name. Because once it has that personality or name, it has less power over you, because you just go, oh, that's so-and-so, and they're always negative. I don't need to listen to them.
Oh, I love that. I love that. All right. So how else are you applying this in your business? So you work with clients, you work with companies and individuals to help them reach their goals, overcome trauma. What are some ways that you're working with clients and some other things you're doing outside of that?
I think the biggest thing for me right now is transitioning into helping people learn this modality, because it gets results. Like my clients are recovering extremely fast. It gets results. So it's training others to understand that it is this simple. And it all goes based on something I learned from Tony Robbins. And it's just that your conviction and belief has to be stronger than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that applies strong to the sales process. If you're coming from this place of love, this place of wanting to serve, and you honestly feel that they need the product, and it's your job to do everything in your power to give them this product that's going to dramatically change their life, then approach it like that, and you'll get results like that, because the person will pick up on you being genuine.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Now, one of the reasons we call this Profound Professionals is because you're not just a leader in your industry and the amazing things you know about hypnosis, but you're also doing something to touch the community or the world in a greater way. So can you share with me some of the amazing things you're doing with hypnosis? Because I think it's just so valuable and so important.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things I'm doing with hypnosis right now is I'm applying it into the drug world, the substance abuse world, and I'm helping them learn how to create their own reality, helping them how to learn self-hypnosis, and help them how to learn how to extinguish their negative self-talk. And I'm teaching this to the counselors there as well. And my ultimate goal was to get somebody that's 100% rehabilitated with this process. But what I'm also doing is I'm teaching them the fundamentals of sales. So I'm teaching them how to close a deal. I'm teaching them how to prospect. I'm teaching them all these things that come with sales, so that when they're ready to, they have a viable skill that they could go out in this world and actually get a job and sustain their drug-free lifestyle.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is them to try to come so far, and then like when we were talking offline here, to realize they don't know how to do anything else. And so they go back into that world, selling and using because they don't know how else to take care of themselves or bring income in. So I love that, how passionate you are about making sure they have a skill set that they can take beyond this. And let's face it, I mean, there is a lot of opportunity, and there's so many different kinds of opportunities for sales out there, in just about every industry. And even if just they learn the art of selling enough to sell themselves and have some confidence in themselves. So maybe they're not the personality for sales, and that's not what they would enjoy doing, but they could at least find that thing that they would enjoy doing and then sell themselves in an interview so that they could get a second chance and get an opportunity for a new lifestyle.
Exactly. And from my experience, what I have encountered is the more leverage, or yeah, the more leverage you provide people with, the harder it is for them to go back into the old lifestyle.
Mhm.
Because if you just are clean from alcohol and drugs, and you go back into your house and you're struggling with paying bills, and your probation officer's on your back, and you have all these stresses, all these people you owe money to, it's going to be pretty easy to go back into using. But if you have the skill where you're able to lift yourself up out of poverty, like I've did myself, it's going to be very hard to go back to that old problematic lifestyle.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that's fantastic. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want you to give some thought today, about how hypnosis might transform your life, change your business, help you achieve your goals. Anything you're struggling with, everything from, those major event kind of trauma life situations, to something you just maybe want to do better. I mean, I think it can even help you. I know it helps with weight loss, and I know it can also help with procrastination and believing in your goal setting uh, process, and uh, that wrong self-talk about money and how people think about money. Sometimes you might be, like you said, self-sabotaging and repelling income and opportunities because of that record player that's playing in your subconscious that keeps you from achieving it. So think about how hypnosis may impact you and transform you. Reach out to Jeff and see, just for a discovery call, and see how things, how he might be able to help you. And if you can't invest right now, that's okay. Maybe there's some other, tips and suggestions Jeff can give you to get started on your own until you can work with him one-on-one. I'm sure there's lots of different opportunities. Wouldn't you say, Jeff, to
Absolutely.
work together? So just think about that. Think about someone in your life who is really struggling, with a phobia or a challenge, or just can't seem to get where they want to go, and they have that level of frustration. Reach out, connect them to Jeff, and see if they can just have a conversation. And if you know of other organizations that are looking at it from the therapy standpoint, as far as rehab and recovering, Jeff is another great person to connect them with. Thank you so much for spending time watching us live here on Profound Professionals. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Before we say goodbye to everyone, what's one last thing you could share? A book, a quote, something transformational, advice, or a tip that could help everyone before we say goodbye on this Monday morning still, but approaching afternoon.
Sure. I'm going to share this quick, simple tip about how to change your identity. So, Jessica, we all have a perception of who we are, right?
Mhm.
So, I want you real quick to think about yourself eating cereal or just eating dinner right now, okay?
Okay.
As you have that image in mind, right? Is it from the first person or third person?
I'm eating cereal.
Yeah,
So first person.
first person. Typically, a lot of people will have the experience that it's kind of like a camera's watching them. they don't see the cereal bowl, they just see themselves eating the cereal. So when you recall a situation, right, you typically don't recall it in first person, you recall it in third person. And the strangest thing, there is no camera following you around connected to your brain.
Yeah, I did see myself sitting and eating the cereal. So I guess that would be more from a third person perspective.
Exactly. So this is how the subconscious mind, and it's a bit crazy that we all encode memories in this way, in this third person perspective, and we feel our memories are true, but all of our memories are distorted a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you're looking at yourself from that perspective, that's who you are. If you want to start changing who you are, start changing that image. So if in that perspective, you're somebody that's broke, start changing that perspective. If you have a body issue that you don't like, that's where you start. So whatever image you have of yourself that you don't like, start changing it from that third perspective and work on it at night, specifically and strategically changing your imagination around yourself. And I could go into hours about this, but I wanted to give just a simple little tip.
So really just imagine ourselves like we're watching ourselves on a movie screen in whatever scenarios that we want it to be. So is that what you're saying to do? So if I don't want to be eating cereal and I want to be eating grapefruit instead, watch myself eating grapefruit for breakfast. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, because you're going to start to plant the seed inside the imagination, and your imagination is the playground of your subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. That's where everything starts.
Okay, well, thank you for that. All right, well, everybody have a fantastic week. We have a lot to accomplish. We just got started. It's Monday, right before lunchtime, so there's still a ton you can get done on your checklist. Lots of Zoom meetings to attend, I'm sure, for the entire week. Everyone's booked out and scheduled. So until the next Profound Professionals, I'm Jessica Koch. All of Jeff's contact information will be in the comments below. I'm also going to have this on YouTube. It'll be in the YouTube description, and there'll also be an article on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter as well, which will contain a written version of some of this interview as well as all of his contact information. So I wish you well. Stay home, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for everyone who's on the front line and can't do that and is pushing through for us. And take care and have a great time. See you soon. Bye, Jeff.
Bye.